Oh, hey everyone, welcome to another episode of First Canada Live, where we are celebrating the Blue Jays being back in the World Series for the first time in 32 years. We're also here to talk about First Robotics and cool things like that. No, seriously, First Canada Live, we are here to talk robots and all the things today. We're just very excited because there's so much happening in the world of robotics and in the world of baseball. Just saying here. Okay, I'm just super off track already. Hi, I'm your host, Karthik Kanagasabapathy. But first, as Canadians, it is important to recognize the land of which we are a part. We begin our show acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. We meet on a virtual platform. While we meet on a virtual platform, we must take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land of which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between the nations and our own understanding of local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast and north to south, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this nation home. Please join us in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we can each, in our own way, move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. All right, folks, to get us started, I think we need a co-host, and there's no better person to bring out than our Youth Council co-host from Team 22582, Guardians of the Allen Key from Hamilton. It's Nadya. How's it going, Nadya?
Going well. How are you?
I am good. First off, every time we have some from the Guardians of the Allen Key, we have to recognize you have the coolest team name in all of first, I'm pretty
Thank
sure.
you.
It
Thank you.
is my favorite as a big Guardians of the Galaxy fan and Marvel fan in general. The first time I heard that name, I was just like, this is hilarious and awesome. How did the name come about? Was it just like a couple kids on the team were fans of Guardians and that's how it happened, or?
Well, I joined the team a few months after it was founded, but from
Okay.
what I remember, it was just group discussion and it was the best one that they came up with.
It's memorable, like no one's gonna forget that one, especially if you are like into Marvel like I am. Are you a Marvel person, Nadja?
I used to be, now I'm not so into it, but I definitely still enjoy it. Yeah.
That's a familiar story. A lot of people say that these days. Who's your favorite character? Do you have a favorite character?
Ooh, that's hard. I kind of
It's
like,
hard, yeah.
yeah, they're all iconic in their own way. So difficult.
Yeah, like I think like if I go with like mainstream like main characters, it's Nick Fury for sure. Like he's just so iconic or whatever. But like if we go with a smaller character, it's Agent Coulson from like the first two Avengers movie, sorry, the first Avengers movie, and then Agents of Shield. So yeah, favorite ones. But there's so many. Oh my goodness, I could just go on. I'm not gonna let this turn into a Marvel podcast. We've already decided we're pivoting to a World Series Blue Jays podcast here, so we can't go too far off. But Nadja, thank you for being here. And hey, we got a great show coming on today. We've got some amazing guests. We have our Everybot crew, Team 118 is back. They're talking FTC this time. We've got our first global team. Yes, that's right. The team representing First Global for all of Canada, Team Canada from Quebec, will be on the show. And we have Ebony Demers here talking about Shad. So we're really excited about all of that. And Nadja, you're going to be telling us a little about your experiences at Shad, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, this is going to be good. But before we do any of that, we'd like to start the show off where we kind of talk about, you know, it's stressful times right now. A lot of high school students are working on university applications. They're trying to figure out their future. They're stressing out about robot season. The first FTC competitions are about only a month away. So a lot is going on. And so it's important to find ways that we can recharge and relax. And so, Nadia, how do you do that?
Something that I really love to do to relax is learn new hobbies. They just give me something to work on outside of school that isn't getting marked and won't really determine my entire future. So recently this summer, I taught myself how to play guitar, and I'm no expert yet, so don't ask me to play anything. But it's just really nice to come home and be able to attempt to play some of my favorite songs. Karthik, I'm having trouble hearing you right now.
How about now? Can you hear me now? I think I might have accidentally. I think when I was coughing, I muted and I just didn't unmute. But what I was saying is, I'm glad you recognized that I was going to ask you to play because that's basically what I do whenever someone says they have a talent or whatever. It's like someone could see like my talent is like kicking my laptop across the room. I'd be like, "Oh, can you show us?" Not realizing it'd be a bad idea. But okay. You'll be on the show at some point again, I bet you.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the incentive to get the guitar ready. But I think that's a great thing. It is so important to have hobbies, and you're never too young, you're never too old to pick up a new hobby. And I think it's a really good thing because as much as we want to focus on school or work or robotics, by doing more things, active things in other times, it's going to make you stronger at your primary interests. And that's kind of how our brains work. So I'm a big believer in having hobbies. All right. You know what? I think it's time to go through some news updates. Let's just go through them quick because, we want to get to the show because we have so much cool stuff happening on the show today. Um, but first off, we are now a podcast. You can find us on Spotify and Apple. And so that link's going to go in chat. But also, folks, our show schedule, we're going to be back for our next episode November 11th on Tuesday. So make sure you've signed up for notifications and we're good in that direction. Sorry, I have a cough. I'm going to be coughing all show long. There's no avoiding that. Good thing this is virtual. No one's around me. And of course, folks, if you want to, your team is looking for a little bit of help, a little bit of mentorship, you've got some questions, you're not sure where to get an answer, check out the Ontario Team Slack, which is a great place for teams to post their questions and get quick answers. And of course, folks, for anyone who is now a First Canada alum, make sure you sign up for all the alumni notifications and the newsletter where you'll learn about the LinkedIn group, career connections, and ways to interact with our sponsors. You can sign up for that at firstremarkscanada.org/alumni. All right, before we jump on to our next segment, Nadja, I want to come back to the question of the day. Did you watch the Jays game last night?
I watched the end of it. I turned it on probably 30 seconds before they scored those 3 runs.
Oh,
So,
so you turned it on right at the perfect time. You didn't have to deal
yeah,
with the stress and the sadness. It was just like Springer Dinger and it was all good.
exactly. Yeah, it was great.
I was at the game last night and I swear the stadium shook and it was just like
Yeah.
nothing else. And I'm lucky enough to have been there in 2015 when Batista hit that home run and this was like the same energy. And then outside the stadium, the energy was like unparalleled. Like Raptors 2019 winning the championship energy.
Wow.
Everyone was celebrating, dancing. Uh, you know what? I love the city. I love this country, and I love that the Blue Jays are helping bring everyone together. So it's fantastic time. All right, folks, we are going to be back. We're going to be talking about Shad, but before we do that, let's take a look at a word from one of our sponsors, Rockwell. All right, thank you, Rockwell. And now we're back, and we're here to talk about Shad and all the good things. So we'd like to welcome our first guest, Director of Recruitment at Shad, Ebony Devers. Hello, Ebony.
Hello.
Well, thank you. Welcome to First Canada Live. Glad to have you on here. And I think this is your first time on the show. We've had some of your colleagues from Shad here in the past. So, welcome to the show. And starting us off with the most important topic of the day. Were you watching the game last night?
I was not watching the game last night. I was getting updates through my partner of the score, so I knew we were
Okay.
down and then we were up, and then I fell asleep before the final score came out. So I
It
found
the
out this
game
morning.
the game did go late last night. It did go late. But yeah, it's just excitement and everything's buzzing. Ebony, whereabouts are you located? Because I guess with Shad, one of the cool things is this is a cross-country organization. So I actually have I couldn't even guess where you might be.
So I'm located in our central offices, which are in Waterloo in Ontario, but we have
Okay.
campus partners across the country from coast to coast.
That's right. That's right. That's fantastic. Waterloo, a town I know very well from my time in university there. So, Ebony, a lot of Shad is a very popular program. So many first students are a part of it, but I'm sure there's many who are tuning in today who aren't exactly sure what Shad is. Could you tell them a little bit about the program and who it's for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we run an immersive summer program in the month of July for students that are in grade 10 and grade 11. So you'd be in grade 10 or 11 right now to participate next summer. And basically, throughout that whole month of July, you get to experience a blend of STEAM, so science, technology, engineering, arts, math, all things that I'm sure are part of First Canada, and also entrepreneurship. So we blend those two things together into this immersive experience that is just a month full of innovation and creation and learning how to tackle real world problems.
That sounds fantastic. And Nadja, you did Shad this summer, and so why don't you tell us like a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, it was really fun, and I definitely learned a lot about myself and how I interact with others. And it was just really fun to be around so many awesome people my age who were doing so many cool things with their life, and it was so inspiring. They're actually the reason I started learning how to play guitar because so many of them played so many musical instruments.
That's really neat. So like Ebony mentioned, like it's not like just a pure STEM program, it's a STEAM program, and so you picked up the arts right there. And I think you were in PEI this summer.
Yes, I was. Yeah.
That is so cool. And so Ebony and maybe both of you want to tell me a little bit about like what's a daily life at Chat. I think people like have an idea of what traditional summer camp looks like. It's like you wake up, you go for a swim, you do some like a ropes course, you go canoeing or whatever. But what's life like at Chad?
Yeah, it's definitely not your like traditional summer program. So the students that participate basically live on one of our 30 post-secondary campuses across the country. So UPI being one of them that Nadia was at. And throughout that whole month, they do a bunch of different labs and hands-on workshops, all run by academic and industry professionals. So, one morning you could be learning how to code a robot using a Texas Instrument graphing calculator. And then in the afternoon, you could be doing a biology lab and learning about different plants or different animals. And then in the evening, you might be spending time on the design entrepreneurship challenge that we have, which is a huge project that you work on sort of throughout the whole month with your team tackling a really big, important problem. So this past summer, their challenge was how do we design sustainable transportation solutions to meet the needs of Canadians? So wicked real world problem that could be approached from so many different ways. So you'd spend a whole bunch of time on that challenge, and the challenge changes every summer. But I think we have a few photos to kind of show sort of what a typical day might look like, just to kind of help um, explain that a little bit better. So this here, I think, is the photo of the Texas Instruments graphing calculators that are kind of put into these robots where you learn how to code using that. And then our next photo shows something a little bit different, I believe. Or I guess the same thing. Now they're testing out their code to see if it works. I think they were drawing out the Shad logo using the robots and like a marker that was stuck in it. So that's one of them. This, I'm assuming, was some sort of brainstorming session, probably for the design challenge. And then I think we got a peek of the next photo, which was clearly an engineering type challenge where they had to build some sort of bridge that I'm assuming had to hold some weight. So really just a huge variety of different things. But I think that, Nadia can probably speak a little bit better to maybe, some of the exact things that she did during the summer program.
Yeah, so at Shad, I was a part of a DE group, a design and entrepreneurship group. So we spent a lot of time brainstorming as a group and trying to come up with a business pitch. And that was sort of the whole month long. And we were working on that. And then along with that, everyone was on a different committee planning different things. So I was on the final banquet planning committee. So I helped plan the final banquet, whereas other people were on gratitude committees, writing all the lecturers' thank you notes and kind of planning around everyone's birthdays.
Hmm.
Just lots of things like that to keep us all busy.
And so Nadia, tell me a little bit about that design entrepreneurship project we're working on. What was the topic? Because I know Ebony told us a little bit about sustainable transportation, but what specifically did you tackle? Because I think that would be really interesting for our audience.
Yeah, so it's a broad question on purpose, I think, so that a lot of different people can take different approaches to the problem. For example, my team, we decided to design an app that encourages people to go biking more by gamifying it. So kind of like Pikmin Bloom and Pokemon Go combined a little bit into a fun biking game. And we designed graphics and made a presentation that we gave at the end of the month. And other teams took totally different approaches to the problem.
That sounds fantastic because it's like often it's what I love about Shad, at least conceptually, is it seems like it's a very interdisciplinary program, and you're bringing together a lot of different fields or whatever. And I think like in a normal school system, like our our math class exists very independently from our English class, and I think at Shad you have this unique opportunity where the various lessons kind of thread together, and because like that's what the real world is. The real world is an interdisciplinary challenge, and so I think that this real world preparation is like that. And so Ebony, is that by design, to try and get students, wrapped around projects in multiple different levels?
Yeah, it absolutely is by design. That is sort of the whole goal of Shad is to prepare students to be, change makers and innovative creators and to sort of see how everything is connected. Like the arts, for example, that includes so many different humanities and social sciences, but also includes leadership and things like communication skills. And those are crucial skills regardless of what field you go into, whether you decide to be a doctor or a lawyer. There's everything is interwoven. And even if you're a lawyer, maybe you're a medical lawyer, so you still need science, right? So many things are so interconnected. And that's kind of like that design challenge is also purposefully chosen to be a topic that you could approach from an engineering lens or maybe, like a coding lens if you're going to design an app. So there's so many different ways you can tackle it. And that's really on purpose so that we can bring together students from across the country with, different strengths, but the same amount of, curiosity and excitement to tackle a problem and just throw them all together in a room and see what they come up with.
Well, and this is part of why First Canada loves working with Shad so much, and why our students, so many of them go to Shad, why so many Shad participants end up doing First, is because if you look at what we're trying to do in First, you look at it, it's like, oh, it's robotics competitions. That's very robot, but the competition it's not about learning how to build a robot. Well, those are super important skills, and a lot of people in these programs go on to become mechatronics engineers. Most don't, but everyone in this program learns how to solve hard problems. And that's a skill that'll apply no matter what you're doing in your career, even in your personal life, and trying to figure like I see how first alumni how they process like uh, buying a house versus someone who hasn't been a part of first. And it's like, oh, I'm going to make a spreadsheet here. I'm going to compare my options. I'm going to think of the opportunity costs here. And they're bringing all these things together. It's about systematically laying out a problem. And I think that's really, really neat. And so, obviously, Ebony, that's one big thing that students get out of Shad. But what else do students get from participating? Why is this such a valuable experience in their lives?
That's such a great question because there's so many different answers to that, sort of depending on what you hope to get out of the program. There's some sort of like immediate benefits and then also sort of long-term ones. But in the short term, they can help students explore sort of what they might want to study when they go to university. So because we have 30 post-secondary partners, they get to visit one of those institutions and one day do a lab that's based around engineering and the next day do something, that's maybe science related or medicine related. So really getting to experience all those letters in STEAM and how they're all interconnected and basically learn about careers that they maybe didn't even know existed before coming to Shad. So really just broadening their perspectives and opening their eyes to just the enormous amount of possibilities that are out there. And then we have a lot of students that come to Shad that already know what they want to do. And they're like, I need a space where I can see what it's like to go to a post-secondary institution. I want that mini university experience so that when I get there, I'm hitting the ground running. I know what it's like to navigate campus. I know what it's like to, meet new people and make new friends and how to have that independence. So it's really just that sort of launch pad for post-secondary life. And then you join our amazing alumni network of 25,000 people across the globe that are, doctors and lawyers and entrepreneurs and have done so many great things. And you get to be a part of that group. And they're all, they're active, they're all connected on LinkedIn. And so you have this wonderful group of people that you basically get to be a part of and that support each other sort of for the rest of your life, essentially. And that alumni group just keeps growing every year as the program keeps expanding.
That's fantastic. And Nadja, for you, what do you think was the most valuable thing you gained in your time at Chad?
I think that it was definitely being around so many super cool people for a whole month. I mean, just getting to wake up and have breakfast and chat with them about all their fun, crazy ideas and talk and about really cool and interesting things all day was super valuable for me.
And Nadja, now you've been a couple months away from Shad. Are you still in touch with some of those folks?
Oh yeah, the group chat is definitely still pretty active.
That's fantastic. That's the cool thing. Like, you think about the traditional summer camp experience. People, it's like these are my friends for life. You build these it's really interesting because when you put people together in a constrained space for a short period of time, it might just seem like it's short, but it's really intense. And so like that's where you really forge those deep bonds. And it makes total sense, Ebony, that this alumni network would be so powerful because it's first of all these connections, but also the shared experience that people might have. Maybe they did Shad 20 years apart, but they still have that shared sort of threading. Ebony, did you go to Shad by chance?
I did not go to Shad. I
Okay.
unfortunately didn't learn about the program while I was in high school, which is partly why I'm so excited to be working in recruitment
Yeah.
because if I would have known about Shad, this would have been the exact kind of program that would have been so perfect for me to just
Yeah.
like live on a university or post-secondary campus for 30 days in the summer and just be completely immersed in that life. Like that's exactly what I would have wanted and needed in high school. So I unfortunately didn't do the program, but now I get to be involved in a different way. So
It, it,
just as
it,
rewarding.
it's funny that you say that because so many people who work at First Canada are either alumni or folks who didn't have First when they were growing up and wish they did, and that's why they're passionate about it. Ebony, we are running out of time here, but the most important thing, I hear applications for Shad 2026 are now open. Could you explain the application process a little bit and how students can apply for scholarships and bursaries and where our students can go to find more information?
Absolutely. So applications right now are open for next summer's program. So if you are currently in grade 10 or 11, you are eligible to apply to participate for next summer. So to start your application, you can go to our website and there's a big green apply button right there on the front of the page. You can't miss it. You can create your account and start answering all those questions that will help us understand sort of who you are as a person. So you do have to submit some grades. Those don't matter as much as our essay questions where we want to get to know you, get to know the problems you've solved, how you're involved in your community. That matters a whole lot more. And one thing that all of you, First Canada, First Robotics folks will be interested in is that Shad is really proud to offer 2 full scholarships to First Robotics participants. And, so if you have your team number, you're eligible to apply for that scholarship and it's all built into the application. It's super easy. You just click a box, answer one more question for us. But I would also highly encourage you to apply for all of the scholarships and bursaries you're eligible for. So even though you're eligible for firsts, you could be eligible for provincial funding or other bursaries. So apply for everything you can that you're eligible for. And then, we release those results a little bit later, but our deadline is January 5th. So try and get your application in by then. We also have an early bird special. I don't want to get into too much detail, but there's a big pop-up on our website where you can lock in your top 10 campus choices if you apply and are accepted by the 3rd of November. So more details on that and the conditions on our website. Don't want to ramble too much. I know we're running out of time. But yeah, first scholarships, we're very proud to offer those. So do take a peek. And if you have questions, you can reach out to us at any time. There's a contact info on our website and our apply page has tons of way more information that you'll need to get your application going.
Well, this is fantastic. I'm ready to sign up. I'm a little bit too old, but it sounds amazing. So thank you so much, Ebony, for doing this, and thank you to Shad for providing those scholarships specifically for first students. We appreciate the partnership, and we look forward to seeing more and more first students go on to Shad and tell us their stories and bring some of those Shad skills to first and bring some of the robot skills over to Shad. So it's going to be great. Thank you, Ebony. And folks, go apply for Shad, but before you do that, take a look at a word from one of our sponsors, 3M.
So first robotics competition is the epitome of the robotics competitions here in Canada. It's an opportunity for high school students to get involved in the engineering design of an entire robotic system.
People think robotics is all about building the robot, right? But building the robot is only half the challenge. The building the robot is actually a vehicle for you to build your own self.
For our Canadian manufacturers to stay competitive, there's a lot of automation and robotics that have to go into our manufacturing facilities. So the skills that the kids are learning in this competition hit that mark spot on.
There's definitely the technical ones. I've learned how to do CAD design. I've learned how to work machines. But one of the really, really big ones that I really like is and I think it's really important in this world, is I've learned how to work with a team. Without being able to work as a team going into industry, it's not going to work out.
There are absolutely skills that the students are using today that are things that we use in professional careers that have to do with STEM. They are learning how to communicate, they are learning how to collaborate, they're learning how to think outside the box so that they're not limiting themselves to one thing. They're getting to do coding, marketing, design, engineering, science, the whole 9 yards all together.
It really teaches you all these different skills that you wouldn't think that you would know. It teaches you, how to work with other people, how to do soft skills, communication, teamwork, leadership, all that kind of stuff.
Some of our alumni have gone on to receive excellent scholarships at top-tier universities, and because of that, they've started getting known well by top-tier companies, which allows our brand to carry on as they work for large technological companies in the programming sector, in the automation sector. It's really interesting to see where we end up.
All right, folks, we are back. Now it's time to talk FTC Everybot, which I am really excited for. So let's bring out the crew from Team 118 and NASA, starting off with Brandon Sidoti, first alum of Team 1023, the Bedford Express, from Michigan, and current mentor of Team 118, the Robonauts, from League City, Texas. He is a robotics and mechanical engineer for the NASA Johnson Space Center, working on space flight robotic manipulators, and also an international man of mystery right there. Hey, Brandon, welcome back.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Also, we have welcoming back, who was here last year, Milo, a senior and outreach captain on Team 118. This is his second year working on the FTC Everybot initiative. Welcome back, Milo. You glad to be here?
Hello, glad to be here.
Awesome. And finally, we have Claire, who's a sophomore and is the lead designer on the intake for this year's 2025-2026 FTC Everybot. Welcome, Claire.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we are glad to have you right here. This is your second year doing the FTC Everybot. And so last year, 118's done the Everybot since 2017, 2018, Brandon? Does that sound right?
2014, actually, but then we revamped it in 2018 to be more of what you know today.
Okay. So there was like the OG version and then, V2, which kind of became the popular one. And then, so you had a lot of experience with that, but you decided to dive into the world of FTC last year, and I'm sure you learned a lot. So what did you learn from last year's experience, and what have you done differently this year?
Well, first thing we did is we had more people working on every bot this year. We had almost double, more than double. So we got it done in half the time. We only did it in 1 month. And this was the amount of people really drove how fast we could prototype and how fast we could CAD. And that just drove our earlier release time.
Yeah, you'll also notice we recommend our custom 3D printed chassis. So it kind of stayed the same from last year, but we made a couple of improvements. So not only is it 30% thinner, down from 1.75 to 1.18, not intentional. But we also support a bunch of different vendor chassis. So you can use the Go Build a Kit chassis, the AnyMark, the Studica, the Rev, and you just import that as a configuration into the CAD and you get your updated model ready to go.
That's fantastic. Hey, Claire, I got a question for you because you said that you had more students this year, which allowed you to do more prototyping. How many different prototypes approximately did you all go through while designing this robot?
We probably had around 10. We had at least 3 for the foot design itself. We had 1 or 2 iterations of the same prototype for intake, and we had at least 4 shooter mechanisms. We explored all the kinds of shooters. We had a flywheel, we had a linear punch, we had a radial punch, and then we had the catapult that we chose to go with.
All right, so that's fantastic. I think we could talk more about those prototypes, but hey, Nadya, do you want to see this robot? Are you ready to see it?
Yes, I'm so excited.
Have you seen it yet? Or is this going to be your first time?
I think I saw a clip on Instagram.
Okay, all right. So let's take a look at the FTC Everybot. And folks, normally there's a soundtrack with every 118 video. It's a very curated soundtrack. Unfortunately, because of Twitch guidelines, we cannot play the music, so we're going to be playing this muted. But let's take a look. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna have to resist temptation here because my brain just wants to talk about the foot. That's all I want to talk about. But let's go through this and follow the process like every team has to do. And so we're gonna start at the beginning, and in first or pretty much any project, that means strategic design. So what was the priority list for this year's FTC Everybot, and why did you choose the subsystems that you chose?
Our first basically realization right after we saw the reveal was that no vendor robots had a ground intake. So we automatically knew that FTC Everybot needed a ground intake. And that just let teams be more, it's easier to drive, easier for teams to be as competitive as they possibly can with such a simple design.
Yeah, also something we kind of have put higher priority on in recent years for every bot is getting RPs. So looking at the RPs, you have the motif, you have the artifact, you have the park. We realized between the motif and the actual artifact count, it was a lot easier to get that artifact count rather than focusing on motifs, which when you shoot don't necessarily go in the right way unless you're designing specifically for it. And it also adds a lot of complexity for intaking, making sure everything stays in the same order. On the foot, we also looked, so for the RP, you don't need two full parks. You just need one full park and then partial. And we kind of got confirmation on this at a scrimmage that was run by FIT recently. There were a lot of cases where teams that were just about at size limit were trying to park, but their other team trying to partial park was just pushing them out, and they couldn't get that rank point off of that.
Milo, you mentioned about how you wanted to pursue the artifact RP over the motif RP. The motifs kind of just happen randomly in this game too, just the way the scoring structure is. And so a lot of effort to singularize and, hit a pattern, just might not be worth it. I think you're onto something there. So, Claire, we heard you're the lead designer of this intake, and this intake seems really, really snappy. Just watching that video, it's just like boom, 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 they're right in there. Like the whole phrase "touch it and own it" is the dream goal of an intake, and I think you've achieved that here. So tell us a little bit about this intake and how it came about.
Well, we knew that we wanted to save as much space for the other mechanisms on the robot. So we wanted to make it as little footprint as possible. And so we did this with our rubber band rollers. They're pretty big, but they actually compress all the way to the shaft that they're rotated about. So that saved as much space possible. But another thing that the rubber band rollers did was it made it accessible to all teams, no matter what vendor that they are supported by. So by not having flex wheels or the like, allowed any team to have the same exact compression as every single every bot has the exact same intake.
Yep, it's really the same idea as like the tape measure from last year, the U-bolts that we used. Something that you can pick up at your corner store, at your hardware store. Just bring it home, get the robot done as fast as possible.
And then, with that rubber band intake, our teams are probably seeing this and they're like, oh, that seems so cool or whatever. But you have a month and a half of experience on them now with this sort of thing. So how durable have those elastic bands been? And like, how often do you think teams would need to replace those?
We have not had to replace them, but also it's designed to be able to run with half the amount of rubber bands that are on it. So if one snaps mid-match, there's really no problem there.
And I didn't look exactly in the CAD. How many rubber bands are there?
There's 16 per roller.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. And approximately like linear speed of that intake, because it just seems so snappy.
Yeah, we're running the Go Builda, I believe it's 1150 RPM. I think it's like a 5.2 to 1 reduction. It doesn't need to be quite as fast as it is, but with an intake, you always want more speed. Generally, the surface speed of the intake needs to be like twice, especially in a ball game, 2 times the amount of drivetrain speed, so that if a ball is rolling away from you, you can go drive and pick it up. So you want it to be fast. It's probably a little overkill, but we'd rather be on the safe side of things.
You know, I firmly believe in FTC and FRC. You can never have an intake that's too fast or a shooter that's too fast. I mean, you can, but like just rule of thumb, like more power allocated at that. You know, it's kind of like some people say this with TV. No one regrets buying a bigger TV, and no one regrets having an intake that's like a little bit too fast. Worst case comes, you can slow it down. You can do something in code or whatever, and you can make changes. But I'm just like, yeah, just those snappy intakes are fabulous. But hey, now, did you have any questions about the catapult, maybe?
The catapult, yeah, for sure. I was wondering how you ended up with that design when comparing it to other mechanisms.
So, like Claire said, there were a bunch of different prototypes for shooter mechanisms. We tried catapults, we tried linear and radial shooters, we tried flywheels. Um, At the end of the day, they all worked, but when we sat down and we listed out all the stuff that people who are working with this robot would have to consider, the catapult just had the fewest variables. A flywheel, you have to consider the coefficient of friction on the wheel. You have to consider the stiffness of that wheel. You have to consider the stiffness of the backboard, and exactly how well, like how gritty or how grippy that backboard is. Flywheel or catapult, all it cares about is how heavy the thing you're shooting is and how much force you're putting behind it. So all that teams need to do is add or remove rubber bands till their catapult works.
Another thing
And
about catapults is that you can look at it and understand how it works. So it's just really self-explanatory and everybody can just understand. It's very comprehensible.
well, speaking of comprehensible, I'd love it if you want to maybe walk us through how does it work? So is it spring loaded? How does the release mechanism work? Those details to give it like a bit of an overview for the teams who haven't dug into the CAD yet.
It's a direct drive catapult, so it is powered by a motor, but it's also reinforced by rubber band tension as well.
Yeah, so there's two Yellow Jacket motors on a 312 RPM gearbox. They sit opposite each other and they drive two 3D prints arms up. And then there are spots to mount rubber bands down to the chassis. And that kind of gives an extra boost. The Go Builda motors are able to get it to where they can shoot about 3 feet without the rubber bands. The rubber bands just get them the extra mile up.
Yeah, because what you're trying to do with the catapult here is just accelerate the objects as fast as you possibly can. A motor can do it, but it starts from 0 and then has to speed up to whatever speed it reaches. And in this catapult, it only has about 60 degrees of travel. So those rubber bands are just helping that acceleration.
So it's essentially like a spring assist, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Very, very cool. And you've obviously played around with it a lot, tested it and everything. And so uh the cool thing is it shoots three balls at once, which is a big deal. But on the other hand, have you ever run into situations where like you miss all three shots because of this, or is it, so easy to drive that it's easy to line up and security? Like for a team who's taking this on, what should they be nervous about? Or maybe they shouldn't be nervous about anything.
Yeah, well, so there are a couple of workarounds, and it's having driven it for about a day, it gets very easy once you're kind of in the groove of it. Um, just kind of fatigue, really. We've only had the robot around before the reveal 1 or 2 weeks, if even. So we haven't really had enough time to properly test wear over a long period of time, like the FTC season. But at the end of the day, it's 3D printed. So every part on there is very easily replaceable.
Very, very cool. All right, folks, tell us about the foot because this is such a creative solution. And so, how did you come up with this?
Well, we basically made 2 or 3 prototypes, different ideas completely. One was a camshaft, one was a linkage that powered a lever, and then the third was the rack and pinion. So we were originally going to do the linkage, but it actually tilted the wrong way. So we went at the end of the day with the rack and pinion, and the only thing with that we struggled with CG was with it had to be in the front or behind the uh the like rotation where it rotates. And so we did that, but we also added standoffs at the very, very bottom of the base just to enforce the triangle load path and make sure it doesn't rotate sideways.
Oh, interesting. So that keeps it going in one axis only. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's really, really cool. All right, now, did you got another question for the team?
Yeah, so there's a lot of 3D printing on the robot. Do you have any tips for other teams for how they can ensure that their printed parts are super durable and reliable?
Absolutely. There's this document I spent a whole day on that we really recommend you use. It basically has an image of every single part in a slicer with every single setting that you need to set and the orientation that you need to set it in. So there are, I think, 3 settings technically. There's solid, there's standard, that's just your 15% infill to wall, or sorry, three or 4 wall. And then there's regular or solid with a brim. Everything's listed out. Everything's designed for those specific constraints. So everything should to be as strong as possible.
One of the things that we really focus on with the FTC EveryBot is design for manufacturing. We took actually the first full day we spent talking about how to design for 3D printing. So every part on this robot can be printed entirely without supports, because supports are annoying and sometimes that's where they fail because they get very stringy and everything. So to ensure the highest level of success, we designed with 3D printing in mind so that we would ignore all of those pesky supports.
That's fantastic right there. That's okay. So now, looking at this overall design, are there any parts for Milo, Claire, and Brandon that are like your favorite that you're just like very attached to?
My personal one is the intake, partially because I designed it, but also it's just a very, very cool mechanism that I think was very inventive, especially with the rubber band rollers. I know it's nothing new, but for this, it worked so well.
My first instinct was to say the motor-driven catapult, because having worked with both slip gears and choo-choos before, they're very temperamental and very prone to breaking. So I liked just having something that kind of goes. You have a lot of sensor feedback there as well. But really, the part that kind of shines for me now that I think about it is the CAD. We kind of pushed Onshape somewhat to its breaking limit with these configurations. But you can go into a top assembly and select what motors you want for the different subsystems. You can set a completely different chassis, and depending on what you set, even like wheel choices between a single chassis choice, it'll change 3 subsystems. One of them will either get suppressed completely, taken out. One of them will kind of change the prints, and then one of them will just kind of change its height.
And then the foot's cool. I think everyone really loved the foot, but I honestly, and this is kind of silly, my favorite part of this whole robot is that it uses a lot of rubber bands, but only number 32 rubber bands. So you don't have to go to like a store and grab a variety pack and pick out all the tiny ones to use here and all the super big ones to use there. A number 32 rubber band is one of the most common rubber bands out there, and you can just go to the store, buy a pack of number 32s, and it's everywhere. And just because I got to shout it out, there was some really cool 3D printing like techniques done in here. I'm a 3D printing fiend. I love it. I have 6 of them at home, actually probably 9 of them at home. So there's a lot of neat little tricks that we used, from compression bolts on high impact stress areas of the robot to alignment nubs. The intake is all held together by alignment nubs so that you don't have to worry about the bolts locating all of the parts together, because we support M3s, M4s, 632s, and 832s to be used on this robot. So you can't rely on just the bolts themselves to align all the parts together.
Interesting.
Also,
Yeah, go ahead, Milo.
not about the robot, but about the video itself, actually. Something you'll notice if you look really close, but in every single shot, as the balls shoot in, the balls stay very like in their order that they shoot in. So if you're going using your human player load, it'll actually be very consistent at getting your motif that you set in. we were very kind of in our decision process particular about adding spin and adding inconsistency once it's gone in that bucket. So that kind of is the result of that process.
I would not have guessed that. That is a very cool because when you go back to your prioritization and talk about it's like, okay, well, we'll focus on the artifact, maybe the motif, but now that you actually kind of have a way to do that. And also, another thing I love about this robot is that it's easily human loaded. So, even though it has this really great intake, you can still go get your three, bam, drop them off and go, which often sometimes just, speeds up the cycles. Um, so, a lot of teams will look at this design and be like, okay, that's cool, but what's next? So what about for teams who want to go maybe a bit beyond what you have here? Because it does seem pretty complete.
One thing that they can do is they can alter the catapult, so they can basically make it a Donkey Kong ramp, which is when you intake, it can go to the lowest point of the catapult, and then it just stacks on top for the 3 balls, and then when it shoots, you can decide exactly what order by intaking in an order, what order of the balls that you're loading in your catapult.
Yeah, because right now they kind of just waterfall in. We had a design, and it's actually kind of hidden in the CAD. If you dig deep enough, you can find our Donkey Kong ramps. The idea is they are serialized rather than just kind of come in randomly.
That's super neat. So then going back to that RP discussion, you really would have the motif, locked in. And so that would be a really neat transition right there. What about you, Nadja? You got a team question for the team?
Yeah, our team is able to use just individual parts of the design.
Yes, we specifically designed the foot to be very, very small in footprint, but also so that teams can just take the foot. But that's also actually very, very beneficial because the more teams who have a foot, the more teams who can specifically double park with the Everybots form of double parking.
That's amazing. I will definitely be bringing that up to my team.
Everyone get a foot, grab a foot while you can.
Yeah, and a big goal of the Everybot initiative is just the learning. So we laid out our CAD to be as accessible as possible, as well as the kind of 3D printing. So just looking at stuff we've done, whether or not it's best practices, whether or not it's taking the idea of directly using a motor on a catapult, whether or not it's using rubber band rollers. Anything on here is meant to be something that you can take away, and even if you don't use it this year, you can use it on another game.
And so I think you've told us a lot about like what makes this simple, the 3D printing and the CAD and the configuration and everything like that. But what's the hardest part of this robot to build?
Honestly, whenever I was building, the hardest part was taking the 3D prints off of the build plates. It's really not a difficult thing to build, although
The most tedious assembly is just doing the rubber band rollers because there's 16 rubber bands on each roller, and there's 3 rollers. That's a lot of rubber bands. But that's probably the most time consuming part of the assembly.
And then similarly, this design is going out there for the world. Is there any part that makes you nervous? You're like, oh, I hope this works for teams.
We sort of mentioned, but the fatigue of rubber bands is the main concern. We just didn't have time to diagnose how much of a concern that will be. But Milo mentioned that they are 3D printing parts, and we can always replace the rubber bands. So it's whatever the concern is, it's always replaceable.
That is fantastic. And so this is out there, but do you want to tell us a little bit about the resources that are available for teams who are interested in doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. We've put a lot of emphasis and effort into the documentation. We have step-by-step guides on how to build every part of this robot, from the chassis to the intake to the catapult to the hopper, the end game. Everything's out there, as well as all the software and electrical that's on its way out. We also have the 3D printing guide, like Milo said earlier, as well as our Chief Delphi thread is a great place to ask questions, or our Everybot FTC or our Everybot Discord. We are on there 24/7-ish. We got to go to bed, we got to get some sleep, but when we're all awake, we've got a bunch of people ready to answer whatever questions you have, whether it is about this every bot, a past every bot, or something every bot adjacent. We're always ready to answer your questions.
And is this a separate Discord for the FTC Everybot, or is it all one Discord just with different channels?
All just one Discord. Generally, we might split it up into different channels or something, but right now it's just kind of in the general build. Generally, you know, the FTC season happens before January for the most part, is when people are building their every bots, and then kind of questions trickle in afterwards, and then after January is FRC. But yeah, we've been playing with the idea of making two different areas to talk about these things.
That's super neat. Folks, this is fabulous. Nadya, any comments, any thoughts?
I think it's awesome. I love that you can do the ground intake and the human player intake. And I think that the catapult is just awesome. And then obviously foot is such an innovative design.
I guess one question, because you have that Discord going right now, is any idea, like, are teams, you know, are you hearing from teams like, oh yeah, we're doing this for sure, we're using part of this? How's that going so far? What's the feedback been like?
We actually have, and you just showed me the picture right before stream started. There's a team out there they're going crazy with it. It's awesome. Their color scheme looks great. They're giving us updates like day by day. It's actually been really cool to follow along. We don't really know exactly how many teams are like, yeah, we're doing it. There's been a lot of love for the endgame foot specifically. Have you checked the CAD recently? How many people have opened it and made copies?
I have not.
Yeah, last I looked, it was like 200 or 300. So we've got people checking it out, whether they're using the Everybot or just using it as like a learning resource. We're not sure yet, but you know us, we keep our data, so we're gonna find out who ends up using the Everybot resources.
Hey, if whatever data you have, I'm always curious because it's why I love the Everybot project so much is it's about giving more people better access to robots. And the more data that we have on how this is working, and it identifies where there's gaps and just overall program delivery for first, about what can be improved and everything like that. And I think in FRC, obviously the one of the teams, Everybot, helped inspire the Kitbot, and the data that you've collected helped, make decisions in that way. I've been big on collecting swerve data, and I'm like, I don't even need to collect it anymore. One of the teams is just going to do a better job of it. They're going to watch every video of every single robot or whatever. So that data keeping is great. Hey, folks, thank you to Team 118. This is you don't need to do this. This is a side quest for you, but the amount of passion that you put into this, Claire told us that there's 24 students working on it, and you have some really, really like brilliant minds who could be spending their off season learning new things for FRC or things like that. But it's like, no, we're going to spend on this project and we're going to work on this. I'm sure you're doing something else. You're probably inventing some space vehicle as well on the side too, or anything like that. But this is just really fantastic. And I'm also impressed. This is clearly, a student-driven process. So Milo and Claire, just like the answers you have here, y'all are stars. So thank you for coming on the show, Brandon. Thanks for leading this. Thanks to the whole crew, Jenna, Ethan, Ryan, who aren't here. And Brandon, we'll see you in January. Maybe we'll do this again about FRC.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm excited. I look forward to it.
All right, and I think every time I go to an FTC event, if I see one of these Everybots out there, I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to send it to Brandon and Jenna, and you're going to
yes, please. Please do. I would love to.
Nadia, do you want to do the same thing every time you find one of those? Just hit it up in the Youth Council Slack, and then we'll get them all the photos to Brandon.
That would be awesome. Wait, like I said, we keep our data, so that's going right into it.
All right, that's fantastic. Hey, Milo, Claire, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on the show. Hope you're all Jays fans right now. Enjoy the World Series, and we will talk to everyone soon. And we will be back with our next segment. We're talking First Global in just a moment.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we are back. And folks, we're talking First Global. We got our friends from FRC Team 3544, the Spartiates from Quebec. And we have Araf and Justine, or Justin. Welcome to the show. Bienvenue. How's it going, folks?
It's going great. How are you doing?
I am excited. You know, the Jays
Thrilled.
going to the World Series, but I'm more excited because we have a new team representing Canada at First Global this year, and they're from Quebec. You're heading to Panama very, very shortly. But you know, before we get started, you know, I know you have a little bit of a presentation, but let's give the audience set the table for the audience. Give us the 30 explanation of what is First Global and how are you going there? Why are you going there?
Okay.
So what's First Global?
Okay, sure. We would have explained it in the PowerPoint, but First Global.
Oh, is it in the PowerPoint? Because if it is, we're going to
Yeah.
jump right into the PowerPoint.
Yeah, sure. Let's just jump right into it.
There we go.
It's okay. Let's just start. Let's just start. Essentially, First Global is like the equivalent of the Olympics for robotics. It gathers 190 teams from every country, each team representing the country, like us for Canada. The goal essentially is to gather, there's many goals, but if I had to summarize it, it's to gather youth from all around the world to find solutions to world's greatest challenges. That's how I would do it. It's kind of the equivalent of taking like the intensity from FRC, the robot from FTC, and the theme from FLL and mixing it into one big competition. That's how I would put it.
That's fantastic. And so maybe you want to show us your presentation?
Sure. Whenever you want.
All right. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, we're Team Canada.
Also known as 3534 Spartiate from Montréal Nord.
Oh, okay. We went through what it is and why, but where is it? You might be wondering. It happens in this year. It's in Panama City in Panama, not the Panama in Florida. There's a Panama in Florida, but we're talking about the Panama in the country Panama. When is it? It's from October 28th to November 1st. So please tune in and support us.
Yeah.
Who will be there? Well, like I said, 190 different countries. We will be there.
I mean,
and
I hope so.
We will be there.
You're going to be there. Don't worry. We're going to get you on the plane by Friday.
Next.
Now we can switch this slide.
The game. Okay. FGC, the game, the theme of the game switches every year, but this year the game theme is called Eco-Equilibrium. The point of the game is essentially to balance biodiversity units into the ecosystem. How does this work in the literal game? I suggest you go watch the First Global video, but if I had to summarize it, you have these barriers under these towers, which are called ecosystems. You remove the barriers. You try to collect biodiversity units, which are like these balls. And what you have to do is shoot them on top of the 3 ecosystem or towers and have a sort of equilibrium, as the name suggests, balance amongst them. And then finally, you have also other concepts that we see that we know of, such as climbing the rope to secure protection. You can earn points through other different methods, such as putting the barriers into mitigators. You have accelerators to have more biodiversity units in the playing field, and much more. What is our strategy, you might ask, or our objective for the game? Our strategy is essentially, it's quite simple. It's just to get as many biodiversity units as we can and then shoot them onto the ecosystems and then finally climb. More specifically, if we go, this is our robot. It's a big boy. It's my,
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Can you see it well?
It's
yeah.
Tough, but contrary to like other teams, thank you. Contrary to other teams, we did not go with an intake. We went with a hopper system, kind of like this here, but it's to also just have as many balls as we can. And then we went with a vertical shooter, which we also did not see from many teams, but I did see a few, I think. But yeah. Why? Well, one, it's for cycle times, but it's also to save space so that we have, again, the most amount of balls possible in one cycle. And then finally, we have, like we said, the climber. We worked really hard on this. It was probably the most difficult part of this entire robot, but we succeeded. In fact, it climbs up to 1.5 meters. The objective is 0.8 meters. And yeah, we go above the objective, and yeah,
way
we're really
above
proud
it.
of it. Way above it. Yeah. Next slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have to come. Give me a second. Go ahead.
And the name of our robot is
yeah.
Can Adapt, because we adapt to everything.
Exactly.
And,
We can adapt. It's also inspired
yeah.
by Canada Arm.
Canada Arm with
for the
Yeah. Now onto our team. Total members, we consist of 9 students and 4 mentors. Then
5 official students and 4 more of them. Now for the outreach part, we reached more than 1,800 people. We also did more than 80 hours of outreach event hours. And we have more than 102,000 views on Instagram and on TikTok. Then for the project part, we have the NTE project, which is the new technology experience. What is it, Ahaf?
The new technology experience. This is the part where it's similar to FLO. What it is essentially the goal is to prevent wildfire for us, because in Canada, as we know, wildfires can be a problem. For us, what we designed is a sort of floatable drone station where it goes on the lakes and takes water from the lakes and has a sort of sensor so that whenever the temperature gets too high, it dispenses drones that dispenses water to cool it down and prevent wildfires entirely. That was our little project.
We have a second project that we worked on during the whole summer that we'll talk about in a couple of seconds. But our goal is to represent the best our country, our province, our school to Panama and hopefully win something, an award or something.
We're gonna win.
He thinks we will. I also think we will.
I know we will win.
If you
I love the confidence. I love the confidence.
Do you have any questions so far?
No, I think this is great. Let's keep going through this. I want to know what you're doing with Game Manual Zero. Because Game Manual Zero is one of my favorite resources in FTC.
Yeah.
It's a big project.
Yeah, so it's the biggest community resource for FTC and FGC. We translated from totally from English to French, and we did that to make it accessible to La Francophonie, which is all the French-speaking teams, which is more than 200 teams of FTC and FGC. And you can use it now. It's available, so you can go use
check it out.
Go check it out.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And next slide.
And next slide, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Q&A.
Now it's just the Q&A. Any questions?
Well, I guess the first question I have is, what are you most excited about for going to Panama? Okay, obviously the competition, but what else?
Personally, meeting new people.
Yeah.
Because I love having new interactions with new people, learning about new culture, new languages and all of that.
Yeah, one thing about FGC is that we did a lot of meetings with different countries, and this wasn't just about robot strategy. It was just about exchanging cultures, and I found that really interesting.
We met about 100 teams.
Yeah, made a lot of.
Wow.
Yeah. So we did a lot of
We're
meetings.
becoming Mr. Worldwide.
Exactly.
So you're Pitbull now. That's what you just said to me right there. Yeah.
Exactly.
Essentially. Hey, so you met 100 teams from 100 different countries. Is there one that you've become especially close with as friendship, a bond?
Yeah, but I really like the Bohemian team. That was one of my first meetings, and it was a bunch of teams together, but they were nice. Yes. I remember that. They were just very welcoming.
And I personally talked to many other people in different teams like Saudi Arabia or Bahamians or German or these different
almost
people.
Anything you could think
yeah.
of.
That's it. Well, I mean, it's truly a global event,
Yeah.
Nadya, I wonder if you have a question for the team.
Yeah, I was wondering about the timeline of all of this. When did you guys find out that you qualified, and how did you qualify?
We
6 or 7 months
we
ago.
learned that we were trying to get qualified in May or in April. April, yeah. And how did we do it? We sent our
application. And it just happened. So we're like, yay, let's go. Let's go to Panama.
So were you guys building robot over the summer and working on it?
Yeah, we got the
kit
in late August. So we started from there.
Yeah, another special thing about FGC is that we have limited amount of resources that every team gets to have a sort of equal footing for every team. So we're limited. We can't 3D print, for example. We just have to use everything from the kit.
Yeah.
So basically, you get a box of stuff, and that's all you can use.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say that because that's originally, excuse me, sorry here. That's what FRC was like at the very beginning. It was FRC was a lot smaller, and you got a box. And teams were really creative because one of the things that was in the box was an old dot matrix printer. And the printer was given so you could print the manual and everything. So sorry about this cough.
Don't worry about
But
it.
what teams were really smart because what they were like, well, wait a second, what if I take the printer apart and then are there parts in there that I can use on my robot, like the springs and the such, you know? And so teams always find a way. So I'm wondering within your kit, was there any parts that you were able to use really creatively?
We generally don't really. We shouldn't do that because it's like pushing uh, the guidelines. But we thought about melting the plexiglass. No, we thought about melting the metal, for example, and molding it to our own pieces. But I'm pretty sure that's against it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much about it. I could think of others, but not really anything comes to mind. But oh, the gearbox. Okay, there's like a special piece in the gearbox that we used as
Another
like a
system.
yeah. It was a scuff. We kind of changed it out, but
I needed the piece.
it worked. It worked at the time.
I
It's
needed
not.
the
It's no
piece.
longer here anymore. But
You needed what did you need the piece for, Justine?
like
For a motor in.
it was like in the hex shaft.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool.
For
So
the
The bearing, kind of.
you know,
Yeah.
I want to let you in on something here, folks, because you mentioned this as like the Olympics of robotics, and you're going as Team Canada. And that is an amazing title. If you think of the folks who have represented Canada on the world stage before, not just in the world of robotics, but you think of people who've been on Team Canada. You think of the 1987 Canada Cup, the game-winning goal scored by Mario Lemieux. We think of Sidney Crosby in the Olympics. We think of Haley Wickenheiser. We think the Summer McIntosh at the Olympics, Andre DeGrasse, all Team Canada. And now that's you. And this is really, really exciting. But it's also there's a responsibility there too. And the responsibility isn't to win. The responsibility is to get there and compete and show off what we're proud of as Canadians and what we're proud of, our gracious professionalism, our kindness. And based on what I've seen from this team and the amount of, you've quote thousands of people reached with outreach, and you're translating resources for the entire globe out of the goodness of your heart, it shows that you have this right spirit. And so all of us at First Canada are just incredibly proud of all of you for going to represent, and we can't wait to watch. So how can we watch?
Pretty sure we'll have Twitch lives.
Yeah, I think there'll be Twitch.
Live on Twitch. So we're
Yeah.
going to find a First Global channel and we're going to get it out there.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work with the folks here at First Canada. We're going to find that information. We're going to post it on our socials to support the team because I think that'll be really great. And we'll repost stuff from your channel and all the things. Are you going to be keeping us updated on socials?
Of course.
Of course.
Okay, and where should all our viewers follow you on socials?
Yeah, you can go follow us and we'll follow back. And
But you got to tell us where to go follow, Justine.
Oh,
Come
okay.
on.
FGC.
Well, I think
Canada.
it's First Global Team 2025, Canada 2025. That's our FGC account, but our Instagram, like Team Instagram, maybe you can find it. I don't quite remember.
I'll show the.
It's probably
Team
FRC
Canada.
Spartiate 3545.
That's the
3544.
name of the Team Canada. I don't know if it's like reversed for you.
No, it's coming through. It's just not really focused.
Just
Don't worry. We'll get it out there. Just read it out. Read it out. I'm going to type into
First
chat.
Global Canada
2025.
2025.
First, so it's going to be at First Global Canada 2025.
Yeah, all together.
And then our FRC team is just FRC _ Spartiate 3544.
All right. There we go. Hey, we got a question in there in chat. And how is a team selected to attend First Global? So I can give a little bit of an explanation. So it works out that there's a rotation between the 4 provinces that have a strong presence in First. So British Columbia, Alberta, Ontario, Quebec. Last year was Ontario. And then each province has their own selection method. So I think in Quebec, you filled out an application form. And then I think the folks there. In Ontario last year, I believe what we did was we took the highest ranked team at the FTC Provincial Championship who did not advance to Worlds. And so First Global was like another path to get there. So folks, I'm so excited for you. You got to send us the updates, tag me on socials with what you're doing, at Kanagas, and we'll take a look at it. Tag First Canada, especially on social, and anything that you tag will get reposted for you.
To answer the little question, what also helped us is that we were also supposed to go to Houston. But we couldn't.
So this kind of
that also
mix it
helps
up.
why we
Absolutely. And the first championship in Houston is an amazing event, but we know some of our teams across the country have challenges getting there these days, and so glad that you can get to Panama. And like honestly, like I love Houston. Don't get me wrong, I love the Houston championship, but Panama, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's different.
That's like that must have been like such a great surprise to you because I'm sure you were like a little disappointed that you didn't get to go to Houston and then to hear that you were going to Panama. So what was your reaction like when you found out?
That we could go to Panama?
Yeah.
I mean, hooray. I was just super excited.
Yeah, I was very excited. I was like, when are we leaving? Who will be leaving?
Yeah, details. What robot are we building?
Yeah.
What is it? We just started learning about it. We didn't even know it existed, and then
Yeah.
it's like a whole new world that we discovered.
That's amazing. All right. Well, I want to say congratulations. You're going to represent Canada amazingly, and good luck. We can't wait to follow along and see how you do, and we can't wait to hear all about it. So thank you, Araf and Justin. And
Also
yes,
have a donation
Link. If
link
you'd like to support us.
if you want to support us.
Even more.
okay. And where can they find that donation link? That's on your Instagram?
On our
On our
socials,
socials.
yeah.
It's on your socials. Okay, perfect. So then folks can find that there. If you want to support this team get to Panama, I'm sure it's not cheap to get to Panama. So
We
help them
actually
out.
funded it all ourselves. But
Yeah.
There you go. Great fundraising.
Perfect. Thank you
All right,
so much.
folks. Well, thank you so much to the First Global team. Nadya, that wraps up another episode. What did you think?
That was awesome. Every time I come on here, there's just so many inspiring teams and people.
I know. It's very, very exciting. All right, folks. Well, that's a wrap for today's episode. We'll be back on November 11th, where we're actually going to have the Youth Council on here doing a panel discussion. I think they're going to be talking about how to balance robotics and the rest of your life, which is, I know, a big challenge for so many of our students in our program. So we can't wait for that. So we'll be in a few weeks. And hopefully, when we come back on November 11th, we'll be talking about the World Series champions, Toronto Blue Jays, and the first global champions, Team Canada. That's what we're hoping for. All right, folks. It's been a slice. We'll see you in a few weeks. Have a good night.